Hey, quirky humans, welcome back to the channel where we talk about doing life your way. Today, I have a bit of a rant meets pep talk for you because we're going to be talking all about beliefs. And despite what my earrings may lead you to believe, I'm not talking about do you believe in UFOs or aliens. Although, if you do, leave an alien emoji in the comments because I actually kind of want to know because I'm curious now because I'm a Gemini. But that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about are the values that you live by, the causes you rise up to fight against, the things that make you who you are. That's the belief that I'm talking about. And before we even get started, I need to ask you a question. How much are you really willing to stand up for your beliefs? Think about it for a second, because I actually want you to internalize this question. Do you actually stand up for your beliefs? Because it's really easy to say you support something. I support animal welfare. I care about sustainability. But the important thing is knowing if our behavior matches our words. If we haven't met yet, my name is Isabel, and on this channel, we talk all about embracing your weird in order to build a better brand, business, and life. So let's go. Let me give you a real life personal example. When I was a kid, I really loved foie gras. I tried it. I loved it. There was no guilt. There was no second thoughts because I was like 5 years old. When I became a teenager, I found out exactly how foie gras was made. And if you don't know, I don't suggest Googling it if you love animals. I was horrified. However, I kept eating it. Not all the time, but if I was at a party or at an event and it was there, I mean, it's already there, so why not? And yet, I said that I cared about animals and I cared about the fact that animals should not be tortured. And yet I kept eating it. Now, I was a teenager. I've forgiven myself for this. Like, it was a long time ago. But as an adult, I do not touch foie gras. I don't care if it's there. I don't care if you put it on my plate. I don't care if I'm at a fancy party. I don't care if it's free. I will not touch it. It is non-negotiable for me because I really care about animals and their well-being and their rights. So I won't touch it with a 10-foot pole. However, I also know that my actions don't always align 100% with the things that I say I believe in. And neither do yours, because we live in a world where that is almost impossible. And because we're also humans who tend to have a lot of contradictions between what we believe on a conscious level and what we believe on a subconscious level, and a lot of things interfering in the way. And I wanted to answer the question in this video, like, why is this so hard, right? Sometimes I think it's a lack of knowledge. I genuinely didn't know how it was made when I first tried it as a kid. However, once I learned that, I couldn't unlearn it. I couldn't unknow it. The knowledge is what eventually shifted my behavior. So sometimes the reason our actions and our words, or our beliefs and our actions don't align, is because of a lack of knowledge. You cannot make ethical choices on things that you're not aware of. You cannot avoid what you haven't seen yet. So if this is the case, it's okay. Like, if you learn something and you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that and I've been doing this for years. It's okay. You didn't know. If you had known, you might have acted differently. Now that you do know, act differently, right? Other times it's privilege. And I'm not saying this in a shame-filled way, just in the honest reality that privilege creates blind spots. And when something doesn't affect you directly, it's really easy to miss it. It's really easy to not notice it. That, again, doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you human. We can't notice every single thing all the time. However, again, same as knowledge, once you do see it, it is your job to change the actions. It is your job to ask yourself, what will I do with this awareness that I now have? Sometimes it's about resources, money, time, energy, safety. You might want to align your beliefs and your values to your actions, And you might actually not have the resources to do that in this very moment. Like ethically sourced food is a lot more expensive than junk food. Sustainable products tend to be more expensive. Even the time just to research the alternatives is a resource that you might not have in this moment. And let's be honest, not everyone has the same access to the same resources. That's okay, again. However, you just need to make sure you're not using resources as a shield or an excuse to hide behind, and instead use the resources you have to do the best job that you can. But we'll talk about that in a bit. And the last thing is just sometimes it's just plain hard. You want to do better, you know what you believe, but you're tired or you're overwhelmed or you're burnt out or you're stuck in habits and patterns that are really hard to break, or you're navigating 1,000 other things and you decided that this isn't the fire that you need to put out today because it's not as close to you as other fires that are, raging all around you. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. Again, it just means you aren't a robot. You are human. But here's what I realized. Yes, it is important to align our actions with our values and beliefs. Yes, it is important to reflect, to unlearn, to shift when we can. Yes, we are responsible for the impact that we have, not just the intention that we have, right? And just to explain that in case it wasn't clear, we can intend to do better and never actually do better and just stay in that intention. And that's not taking responsibility for our actions. However, we also have to show ourselves compassion when we're going through a tough time. We also have to show ourselves compassion when we're not perfect, when we fall short, because we're going to, because we're human. This is not about perfection. This is about practice, and this is about progress. It's about doing better every time you can, when you can. It's about doing better when you have the resources to do better. It's about doing better when you have the knowledge to do better, when you have the awareness to do better, when your life isn't falling apart and you can do better because it's easier to do better. Holding ourselves accountable and holding ourselves gently are not two opposites of the spectrum. They are both required for growth. We have to learn that. We have to learn to be compassionate with ourselves. I actually recently learned that negative self-talk over time can actually shrink our hippocampus or contribute to the shrinkage of the hippocampus. And the hippocampus is the part of our brain that is necessary for memory and for learning. So literally, when I say holding ourselves accountable and holding ourselves gently are not opposite ends of the spectrum, I mean this from a biological and psychological perspective. The more you are hard on yourself, the harder you are on yourself, the more negatively you judge your actions up until now, the less likely you are going to be able to grow and make those changes that you say you want to make. Like, this is biology and psychology. So just be compassionate. But we do want to change. So how do we actually change? How do we actually do it? The first thing is we shift 1%. Shift your focus again from perfection to progress. Do the best you can with what you have right now, with the resources you have available right now. James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits when he's talking about how to build better habits. And he says it's about improving just 1%. It's not about a full lifestyle overhaul in one night. It's about taking one step. Let's say that you can't afford the most ethical, pasture-raised, organic, gold standard, diamond, well-treated eggs, right? Fine. Can you stop buying the cheapest factory farmed ones? You don't have to go from the cheapest eggs where they're torturing the chickens to the best ones where they treat them like royalty if you can't afford this. But can you go for the next option on the scale? The one that's just a little bit better, right? Can you switch to cage-free? Or can you buy fewer eggs and prioritize quality once a week? That is still a win. That is still change. That is still impact. It's just thinking about it a little differently. Instead of going for the thing that you can't do and saying, oh, I can't do that, and feeling guilty about not being able to do that, it's about finding the best option that you can do right now, the little step that you can do right now with the resources, the time, again, the knowledge, the awareness that you do have. We don't need everyone to do everything. We need millions of people doing something a little better, something a little more aligned, something a little more awake every single day. That is what creates change. Because the more we focus on the perfect outcome, the more we actually don't take action on anything at all. We also need, and I mentioned this a little bit before, we also need to stop coming up with excuses and recognize excuses for what they are when they do come up, right? For example, to the person who says something along the lines of like, oh, I would love to be a vegetarian. I just can't give up bacon. That's the one thing I can't give up. Okay. Do it. Be a vegetarian who eats bacon. And I know that makes you not a vegetarian, like, don't get me wrong. But the fact that you don't get to keep the vegetarian label because you eat bacon is an excuse. You're saying, I could be vegetarian and I support the animals, but I can't give up bacon. Okay, cool. Eat bacon. I know you don't get to call yourself a vegetarian. However, you are still having an impact on the meat industry and what you say you support. So do it. Because a lot of the times we want the label because we want the recognition, but we don't need other people's recognition or approval to do what we know is best. And if there's one little thing stopping you, then do it except for that little thing. It's getting as close to what you say you believe in as you possibly can right now. Eat the bacon. And please, don't come for me, people who are against people who eat bacon. I'm just giving an example. Because what matters here is that you're still making a meaningful change. You're still making a shift. You are getting closer to what you say you want. And hey, maybe eventually you will give up bacon because you'll realize that you don't miss it that much. Or maybe you won't. And that's okay because you're still eating a lot less meat than most people do. If that's what you believe in. If that's not what you believe in, then eat all the meat you want. I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm just telling you through an example how to get as close to your beliefs as you can. This is all about aligning to your beliefs as close as you can based on the things that you have access to and getting rid of that whole purist thing that says, oh, you're not vegan because you ate eggs last year once. Well, yeah, but I didn't eat any other animal products for a year. Well, yes, but you ate an egg, and so you're not vegan. The purist thinking, the perfectionist thinking is what keeps us stuck. It is much more powerful to do something, anything at all, than to do nothing at all because you can't do it perfectly. Don't let that one thing become the excuse that stops you. Instead, do everything except that one thing. Because every step still counts. Everything adds up. Progress is progress, and we need to stop letting perfect be the enemy of even trying. And this goes for everything, right? Not just your beliefs, but we're talking about beliefs today, so I'll just focus on that. You don't need to be perfect, but you do need to be honest with yourself. You do need to say, hey, do I actually believe this, or does it just feel good to say that I do? Because if you're not willing to take any action at all, not even a single small step that aligns with what you say you believe, then do you actually believe that? Or is it just the right thing to say so people don't judge you for it? Think about that as well. If you're not acting on something because you can't, you don't have the time, you don't have the money, you don't have the safety, you don't have the mental capacity, you don't have the energy, that's okay. That's valid, that's real, that's human. But if you're using that as a shield for comfort, if you're using that as a shield for not facing the discomfort of not aligning your actions and your beliefs, or the discomfort of saying, oh, I can't eat Oreos anymore, then that's an excuse. That's not a reason. That's an excuse. That is you saying, I don't want to be uncomfortable. That is you refusing to grow. And that's what you need to stop. This isn't about shame. I'm not asking you to shame yourself. Again, for reduction of the hippocampus, we don't want that. I'm asking you to take ownership. It's not about shame, it's about ownership. The world needs more people trying messily, imperfectly, like I just did, authentically, honestly. Not more people waiting until they can do the perfect thing to then start. Not more people waiting until they can do the perfect thing before they do anything at all. So what's your one thing? Let me know in the comments. I'd actually love to know what is your one thing, your one step, your 1% shift that you are going to take. I will share mine. I have stopped buying Oreos because the palm oil industry is terrifying. So I don't buy them anymore. I don't consume them. And I love Oreos, but I love animals more. And that doesn't mean I'm perfect. That doesn't mean I do all the things, but it is my one thing that I decided to do. And that's what I'm doing. I don't eat Oreos anymore. What belief are you willing to actually live out? What belief are you willing to take a step on? What's your one thing, even if it's not perfect? Leave it in the comments because I'd actually love to know. You might even give me an idea of things that I can do. And if this gave you something to think about, maybe share it with someone you know. I do think this is probably one of my most important videos in the sense of this is a message I really want to go out into the world. And I know I'm making this kind of long, but I do think it's really important. So I don't mind it being longer than YouTube says we should do. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like. And if you'd like more videos like this, also remember to subscribe. I make new videos like this every single Friday. Until then, stay wild, stay weird, do your best, imperfectly, and I'll see you in the next one.